The average job seeker is just that, average, which is great news for you because you don't even have to step up your game that much to stand out from the crowd. And today I'm going to share with you 11 job search tips which are guaranteed to put you ahead of the majority of other job seekers. Hi, I'm Laura and I'm here to take your job search from stressful to successful. So let's get started. Number one is to level up your thank you email. Now, you probably already know you should be sending a thank you email after your interview, but most people send generic ones, simply saying, thank you for your time. I love learning about the position and I look forward to hearing back from you. But no, you are going to do things differently. During your interview, you should be learning about what the position needs, learning about the challenges, learning about ways that you can show up as the solution. But rather than wait until you start the job to show you're the solution, you're going to do so in your thank you email. Here's an example. Let's say that I was interviewing for an HR position and I learned during the interview that they are struggling with their new hire onboarding process because the company is just growing so rapidly. Rather than say, oh yeah, I have experience developing a new hire process, I know that I can do this job, what I would do is I would come up with a simple new hire checklist and I would attach that to my thank you email, letting them know that I had thought about their problems and that I was offering like kind of a snippet of my solution. Of course, I wouldn't say it like that. You could phrase it better, but essentially that's what you're doing. You're showing that not only do you talk the talk, but you walk the walk. And I guarantee you that 95% of people are not doing this. And next up is to get off of those major job board sites like Indeed or LinkedIn. That's where the majority of job seekers go. And if you notice, when you go to apply to a position, it will say already that hundreds, if not thousands, of people had applied to that one position. There are numerous niche job board sites, and these job boards are specific to certain industries. The competition is way lower. And if you're looking for a video about 14 of these hidden job boards, make sure to check out my video here. And next, we're going to talk about your resume. Now, most resumes start with a summary section. And in that section, you'll generally find either 1 or 2 paragraphs summarizing why that candidate is a good fit for the position. But here is where you can stand out. Rather than just have a paragraph or two, which is big blocks of text, have a sentence or two and then follow those with bullet points. Now, those bullet points should be quantifiable, meaning that there is data contained in them, and those bullet points should relate directly to the position that you are applying for. Here's why this works. One, you're making it easier to read because as humans, we're drawn to numbers. We're drawn to white space rather than blocks of text. And because your summary section is in prime real estate, which is the first part of your resume, you want to make it as easy to read as possible. And the other reason this works so well is because right off the bat, you are showing how you are a fit for this very specific position. You're not having them read and read down to find that information. You are presenting it on a silver platter right at the very beginning. And if you'd like to go deeper on how to level up your job search, make sure to click on the link below for your free 5-day job search jumpstart series. And next is to treat everyone like a lead when it comes to your job search. Don't assume that you know who that person knows or you know what that person knows, because you don't. And also, don't limit yourself thinking, I don't know that person that well, I really shouldn't say anything about my job search. Act like it's a normal conversation, which it is. How are you doing? Oh, I'm doing great. I'm actually thinking about pivoting careers. Oh, really? What are you interested in? That's not awkward or cringeworthy. It's just conversation. And when you're able to shift and see people as leads, you're going to realize how many opportunities there are out there. I met somebody in a nail salon once who I reached out to. I even reached out to somebody blindly in a book So there are a lot of people out in this world, and when you start seeing them as leads, that's when you are going to be able to start learning, growing, knowing about different industries and job opportunities that you might not have known about before. And next, you need to have a clear pitch. When you do start having these conversations and people ask, oh, so what are you looking to pivot into, or what do you want out of your next role? You need to be able to clearly communicate that. This doesn't have to be long. It could just be, a couple sentences, but you need to confidently speak to that. Now, I actually watched an interview in CBS Sunday Morning. It was a piece about AI in the job market. And at the end of the interview, the interviewer asked the interviewee why she believed she is a better candidate for a company than AI is. And you would have thought she would have a very clear answer, but she didn't. And that left a bad look.
So let me hear as a human your pitch why you'd be better than AI doing those jobs.
Okay. I'm a person and not a robot.
Once you are able to confidently speak to what you are looking for, you're going to have other people buy into that as well. And up next is knowing when the interview really begins. It does not begin when you step into that conference room. No, it starts the minute you step out of your car. As somebody who did thousands of interviews over my career, you'd be surprised at the number of times that I would overhear somebody on the phone before their interview or after their interview. And it was sometimes a little shocking what I would hear. It's not the person that presented to me. I know that it is your personal conversation, but remember, everything you do during that time that you are at that company, whether or not you're being interviewed or not, does count towards the impression that you are making to recruiters, hiring managers, and just anybody that you would potentially be working with. And also on that note, always be kind to the receptionist. I guarantee you that recruiters and hiring managers are getting intel from the receptionist. And if you are not kind, that will come back to the people making the hiring decision. And next is to connect not just with the recruiter, but with the hiring manager. Now, the difference is the recruiter is the person who is responsible for screening all of the resumes, setting up phone screens, essentially being that first line of defense. Now, the hiring manager is the person that you're most likely going to be reporting to or is the head of the department. Now, the recruiter is generally the person whose contact information is the easiest to find. And so when people follow up, they follow up with the recruiter. But ultimately, it's the hiring manager who's going to make the decision. So it sometimes takes a little bit more digging, but when you're able to connect with the hiring manager, it's going to lead to a more direct connection, and that is what you want to do. Next is to follow up when you get a rejection email. Yep, it might be the last thing you want to do. And that's why most people don't do it. As a recruiter, I would have to send out a lot of rejection emails. And I would say probably 90% of people never even replied. There was a few people who replied with something nasty, and let's just say they went in the do not contact list ever again. But there were a handful of people who would handle rejection professionally. They would send essentially a thank you email to my rejection email, thanking me for letting them know that they're disappointed, but that they enjoyed meeting me and the team, and that they would like to be kept in mind for future positions that opened up. And yes, generally I would keep them in mind because they had already made it through 1, 2, or even 3 interviews, meaning that by that point, it was just down to 2 or 3 candidates, meaning they were already high up on our list. And heck yeah, as a recruiter, if my job can be made easier by reaching out to somebody we really liked and that handled rejection professionally, I much rather give them a call before opening up that position to the masses. And next is to track your progress. When you start your job search journey, a lot of the time you think, yeah, I'm just gonna remember everything. But then the job search process starts going weeks, even months. And it's hard to stay on top of who you talk to, what applications you sent, who you followed up with. When you can track it, that gives you not just an organized system, but it also gives you perspective. You can zoom in and you can zoom out. If you're noticing certain patterns in your job search journey, you can pivot. Let's say you are applying mostly through job boards. You're like, that's interesting. I applied for 50 jobs and 45 of them are through a job board. Then you're going to want to switch up your tactics and focus in on networking. Or if you are landing interviews, but you're not getting job offers, realizing you might have to work on your interview prep, maybe do some mock interviewing. And next is to stop reading the news. If you look at the headlines out there, they're mostly doom and gloom. No hire, no fire. The job market is frozen. AI is taking over all of the jobs. How does that benefit you in your job search? It doesn't. It might make you feel better for a second, but then you get riled up and you start thinking, this is impossible. How is anybody supposed to find a job? And then that victim mentality takes over. You think, this is ridiculous. Everything's set up against me. You have a lot more control than you think. And I've never seen a job market where there's been absolutely no hiring. Are the positions maybe less? Yes. Is the competition higher? Yes. But all that means that you need to do is concentrate on standing out from the rest of the candidates and doing things differently. And finally, recognizing the fact that the job search process is not based on luck, but strategy is going to be a game changer. Now you could say, but so-and-so knew so-and-so, so that was lucky. Well, how did they know so-and-so? I bet it was through networking or talking, conversation, whatever you want to call it. Generally, it's not complete luck. Or you can say, but they were reached out to. They didn't even have to try. Well, why were they reached out to? Did they have a LinkedIn presence that really was a brand that recruiters found? That's not luck. That's strategy. Stop thinking in terms of applying more and hoping something sticks, and instead approach it from a perspective of, what do I need to have a strategic job search that will have me landing positions that I'm excited about? And if you are looking for a video about how to level up your job search even more, check out my video here.